At this point, you should be aware that the moon is spherical, and because it's spherical and the sun is out there shining on it, half of the moon is going to be lit at one time, okay? So since half of the moon is lit at one time, in order for us to see a phase of the moon like this, we would have to see the moon where we just get a little sliver. You should be able to see that little sliver just like you see on that image. But if you look from my perspective, right? So this is my perspective. I'd be like the sun, where I see the moon, is always 50% lit. It's just that from Earth, or from your perspective, where this picture was taken, you're just seeing that little sliver of the lit part, all right? So, what causes the phases of the moon? I want you to try and think about the actual cause of why we get different parts of the moon being lit seen from Earth. So try and explain that. Okay. So, the general idea of why the moon has its different phases from Earth is that we have the sun, right? And then we have the Earth. The Earth travels around the sun while the moon travels around the Earth, all right? So, the side of the moon that faces the sun is always lit. And the side of the moon that's facing away from the sun is always dark. So if the moon is over here, that means this side of it is going to be lit because the sun is over here. This side is going to be dark. If we move the moon over here, once again, right? This side of the moon is lit because the sun's here. This side of the moon is dark, and so on, all right? So the moon is going to be traveling around the Earth, and because of that, we are going to see different parts of it being lit. When the moon is here between the sun and the Earth, the dark side is facing the Earth. So the dark side of the moon, we can't see it. So we don't really see much of the moon when it's in between the Earth and the sun. But as that moon works its way around the other side of the Earth, now the lit side can be seen from Earth, and more until it receives all the way on the other side where the fully lit side of the moon faces the Earth. All right, so just to show you some moon phases real quick, we have a crescent here. You don't have to know the names of the moon phases. You just have to know the difference between a full moon and a new moon. Full moon is completely lit, fully lit. A new moon is when it's completely dark. And we have to know how to draw the phases of the moon based on the moon's perspective. So this is an example of a full moon. This is a quarter moon. We're not going to really get into why it's a quarter moon just yet, but it's called a quarter moon, and that's all about its cycle. And this is a crescent moon, all right? So what we're going to see in a lot of these images is something that's like this, except you're going to have the moon in 8 different positions around the Earth. Just like this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions around the Earth, and these positions have these specific amount lit based on where the moon is around the Earth. So that might be a little complicated, but this is pretty much what we'll be seeing, right? Same idea as this, right? Okay. So let's get into how to draw the phases of the moon. So step 1, we're going to look at the moon which we are being asked about. So in this case, let's say we are looking at this moon position right here. So forget about all the other moon positions. That's the first step. Forget about all the other moon positions, but the one we are being asked about. Next, we're going to draw a line through the middle of the orbit. So if we just take it back real quick, you can see this arrow here showing you the moon's orbit or its path around the Earth. For this step, after we point it out, we look at the moon's orbit and we draw a line connecting this arrow to this arrow. So this is going to be splitting the moon in half. Why are we doing that? Because we are on Earth. We want to know what the moon looks like from the Earth perspective. So if I'm standing here on Earth and looking up, everything on this side of the line, I will be able to see. But because it's a sphere and we can only see half of a sphere, the back side of the moon, we will not be able to see. So if we're drawing what the moon looks like from Earth, we only care about the side of the moon that is facing Earth. So that's where the line comes in. Next, we're going to turn the paper so that we are below the moon looking up at the earth. And I even like to put the little stick figure guy on there. Now that we've turned the paper so that we're looking from earth up at the moon, just like how we are standing here on earth looking up at the moon, we'll be able to analyze what the moon looks like. So, what side of the moon is lit? The left or the right side? So we're going to just be looking at this side, right? We drew the line, this side of the line. I see that the right side is lit here, and the left side is a little dark. So the right side is lit, and the left side is a little dark. And then I ask myself, how much of the moon is lit? Is it just a little bit here, which is less than half? Is it half lit, where we would have half dark and half lit? Or is it more than half lit? So in this case, the side that's facing us is going to be more than half lit. Now we'll be able to draw it based on the different moon phases. So if we take it back, the right side is lit, and it's more than half lit. So we're going to look through these. New moon, is that the right side lit more than half? No. The right side is lit for this one, but it's not more than half. The right side is lit for this one, but it's only half. Which one shows the right side being lit and more than half? That is going to be this one. So we need to draw it where we are shading in the dark side of the moon, and we need to have that crescent shape, just like we would have, where is it? Okay. So the right side is going to be lit, and it's less than half. It's more than half. So it's going to look just like this, which is why we have it drawn like that. Okay? So that should make sense. Let's try some more examples of this. So, what would the moon look like at position 5? So what's our first step? We're focusing on position 5, and then we're going to draw in our line along the orbit. Here's the orbit. We draw in the line along the orbit, and then we are going to look from Earth up at the moon. Now I can't turn the board, but if I take this perspective and I look from Earth up at the moon, I'm going to see that it is actually completely lit from the Earth perspective. So if it's completely lit from the Earth perspective, we've got ourselves a full moon. How about from position 7? Step 1, we're only going to focus on position 7. Step 2, we are going to draw our line in along the orbit. So we're drawing our line along the orbit. And now we're going to put our guy, imagine we're standing on the Earth, and we look up and we say, okay, so the left side is lit, and it's 50-50, it's half and half. So it's 50 or half percent lit. The left side is lit and it's half lit, so it's going to look like this, okay? That's the general idea. I'm gonna have another video following this up to really go in depth about how to draw the moon phases, but try to draw the moon phases first, and then if you're having a really tough time, you can go to the next video in Schoology.